Well, good evening and welcome to the Midas Touch. Hopefully you can hear me okay. We've had a few little technological challenges today. So welcome to our presentation tonight. It's a delight to have you here. Well, this is us here at the Midas Touch. This is our studio. And welcome to our design talk tonight, part of our design series, which we've been running now for probably 2 or 3 years now. And particularly during the whole COVID time, we ran them on a weekly basis in the first lockdown, but as you all know, we're all zoomed out now. So we're really going to once every probably couple of months now to be able to do that. So this design talk is a new design talk that we've not done before. So I'm quite looking forward to it because it's nice to bring a bit of different flavour into the whole experience. But probably most of you don't know who the Midas Touch are. So this is our studio here in Kingsworthy in Winchester. And you can see that's a beautiful showroom here, which we're delighted to enjoy every day we work in. And just at the bottom there, you'll see we're members of the Society of British International Design, which is a global interior organisation, also the KBSA, which is the Kitchens, Bathroom Specialist Association. So this is the inside of the studio. This is kind of where I'm standing right now. We have the display shelving behind us. And this is just talking about some of the awards that we won. So you know a little bit about what we've done. We won Kitchen Retailer of the Year last year, and also we've won Kitchen Showroom of the Year. And these are both amazing awards that we're obviously delighted to have been recipients of. Some of you may be a little bit more familiar with House. It's a platform that allows people to upload photographs to it, and that's what we do as designers. And House Awards are won by recommendation, which is a little bit easier to do. You've obviously got to do a good job, but people will recommend us and they'll put that recommendation on there. We have to reach a certain level to receive a house service award. And the design award is based, we have no control of it. We just submit our portfolio work to the platform. And if a client likes what they see, they save it to that ideas book, and the top 5% of designers globally receive the House Design Award. And to get a House Service Award and a House Design Award puts you in the top 2% globally. And we've been up here now for 6 years, I think, for 5 or 6 years for this particular award. So this is kind of the sort of work that we do. We're a contemporary studio. That's our primary range. We do also do classic and bespoke items in here. And here you'll see an in-frame kitchen, beautiful project we did just outside Southampton, which we were very delighted with, and looking forward to doing more like it. This particular kitchen here, we were amazed. We were a finalist in Kitchen Designer of the Year with this project here. This also we did for a couple of TV presenters. So just while I'm just pausing, Jay is on the chat tonight, and I forgot to mention that it's nice one of my team is there. She'll be chatting away. So if you have any questions or anything that is passing, please do pop that in the chat button. And just to let you know, Jay, there's 2 people waiting to jump onto the presentation. So here, this is a couple we did that were the Wine Masters on BBC Saturday Kitchen Live. Had very unique requirements, and we won a finalist in Kitchen Design of the Year ourselves here. This particular house we did just outside Southampton. Again, we were finalist in Kitchen Design of the Year. This particular kitchen was a Grade 1 listed stately home, which we were delighted to work in such a architecturally and period sensitive building. And we were finalists in Society of British Interior Design, the KBSA, and the Designer Magazine Awards. So we were very, very pleased to do that. And then it's again here, exactly the same 3 awards. We were finalists in this particular kitchen, which you'll see a little bit later. So anyway, that's enough about us and a little bit about what we do and our background. So what I really want to do tonight is touch on the whole subject of how much does a luxury kitchen cost. I'm really going to break it into a few areas. First, I'm going to look at what do we mean by luxury. I'm going to talk through a little bit about that. And then I'm going to talk about an aspect of how to budget and how to cost for a kitchen. A little bit some of the challenges that we have at the moment in the industry. And then I'm going to drop into some case studies of projects that we have successfully completed, that I can just kind of give you some idea of different types of kitchens. And I'll just explain to you why some of those kitchens are more premium from a budget point of view and why some aren't. So hopefully that will be very, very helpful for you. So how much does a country get? Well, actually, it costs as much as you want. And that's a really interesting statement, because what do I actually, well, how much is a luxury kitchen? Well, it can be actually whatever you want to spend, because I think that comes a little bit about definition. So I think the first thing to really look at is, well, what is luxury? What do we mean by that? And I thought the best place to go to was the dictionary, which I don't go to very often, but here is just a few items here of how the dictionary defines luxury: sumptuous living, delicacies, elegance, comfort, indulgence, extravagance, the refinement of living rather than of necessity. Some great words I think really describe really well how we approach the whole subject of luxury. But what I think is interesting about this is there a relative nature to luxury? Or is it just a statement that sits at a particular position and therefore it's affordable by some and not affordable by others? Well, I started to look at this thing and thought, well, actually the obvious place to go to was what we call super lux, which is super luxury. And this is really looking at, you know, the billionaires with their yachts and their massive houses and their lots of houses. And really, they have anything they want, anything that money can buy, they can actually have. So I think that is a really viable thing of what we would probably define as super luxury. I think the next thing is, well, essential, I put down as luxury. Well, this is really interesting now, because if we go back to my parents when they were growing up as kids, they actually didn't have central heating in their home or an indoor toilet or bathroom. So actually now they do, fortunately. So we could say actually there's an advancement of luxury there that has actually improved their life based on the definitions that we've just seen before. So there is that place for that, I think. The other aspect is we know there is certain materials that are luxury. Well, an obvious one would be gold or diamonds. That would be an obvious one. But there's stones, materials, woods, furniture, vehicles, all that sort of thing that clearly define what a luxury is. And this actually does begin to start to create this whole materiality aspect of where obviously how much you spend becomes quite significant. And I think the last thing, I think there is a luxury in functionality as well. There's certain things that you can really only do at certain luxury points. So I just want to do the obvious thing is what we kind of put here with regard to a car. So we all know when we look at cars, because we know the car market a lot better. Here's a lovely red Ferrari on the left and the Fiat 500 on the right. Well, actually, both of them will fundamentally achieve the core aim of getting you from point A to point B. That's what they both do. Now, in the aspect of the style, the comfort, the speed, probably the acceleration, the experience, the technology about the whole experience, you're going to see a very different aspect of that. And obviously there is a brand. I think I'd probably prefer to drive a Ferrari than a Fiat 500, but actually parking in the Fiat 500 is definitely a lot easier. But the phrase I've got up here is that 5 meters away. And what I mean by that is in the kitchen sector, all kitchens look the same from 5 meters away. That's not 100% true, but it's a really good way to consider how things differentiate themselves. So I can stand 5 meters away from a budget kitchen, IKEA or something like this, or I can go to a luxury brand, and actually they could look pretty much identical from 5 meters away. And I think that's a really important aspect to realize in the whole process. So when we come to defining luxury, we actually define it, I actually define it more as a refinement of our current living rather than going to a place of super luxury. It's an improvement on where we are and really developing that whole engagement with the materials that we have around us, the space, in the kitchen sector as we go all the way through. So therefore, it really does come down to what is our desired investment that we want to make to be able to reach the place that we would like to achieve and what we would like to have. So therefore, the question is, well, what is my budget? And it's a really, really important thing, because obviously if you had £1 million to do your kitchen, it's a very, very different kitchen to if it's £10,000. But actually what I have learned in the industry over the years is whatever the budget is, it's never quite enough. It's always something else that we would like more. And I've had people wincing on small budgets, and I've had them wincing on difficult, more challenging, larger budgets as they go through, because people always want the best that they can have and the most they can have. I think that's great. I have any problems with that at all. So really what I want to move on to now is this whole aspect of, well, as I start to engage on a project, and a kitchen is realistically, other than the house itself, the most expensive, most costly part of the whole house. Bathrooms, living rooms, lounges, even cinema rooms, generally speaking, are lower cost than what the kitchen is. So there's a lot of pressure on that space. There's a lot of pent-up desire and aspirations. And actually, the reality is that can I afford what I'm really wanting to? Well, I don't know the answer to that. But I think there is ways that we can start to help clients develop that whole thought process and develop that all the way through. So what I want to touch on is how to budget your kitchen. And it's a fairly simple, straightforward way where we look at 5 budgeting segments that we think just help you as a broad brush approach of how to think about budgeting your kitchen, or putting some aspects in your hand. Because how much do I need to spend for what I want? And the old thing is, if I tell a designer my budget, then he's going to spend it all. Or if I tell him what it is, he's going to go over it, or he's not going to reach it. But actually, a budget is really important to help us as designers know how to facilitate something. And when the budget isn't correct, we can either undersell or oversell something, and neither of them are really very successful, because they don't work for you ultimately at the end of the day, because one doesn't get what they want. So I think as we come into this, the first thing I want to talk about is appliances. We all are much more aware of appliances in the whole process, and we realize there's certain brands that we can go to. We can tiddle off to the local Currys, and we can pick up a Whirlpool washing machine or Hoover dishwasher, Indeset, Beko. They're all the budget appliances, and you can probably quite easily work out by saying, okay, well, I need an oven, I need a dishwasher, and you know that those are lower brands. Then you have the middle market, which the obvious ones are people like Bosch, Neff Siemens, De Dietrich, those type of people. Next level up, I would put into people like Miele and Gaggenau. They're the more kind of premium luxury type of products. And then you have the big boys like Wolfer Sub-Zero and some of the Italian companies. Even Electrolux do a very high-end brand of appliances. Well, you can be paying very simply £300 for an oven, or Miele do an £8,500 oven. So you can begin to see that appliances are really, really important part of your whole budget, and how they work in the context of everything. I have had clients who have come to me with a budget, and I said, well, what is it you're looking for? And they start to talk about things, and actually we begin to work out very quickly that their budget isn't enough because of their expectations and what they need for that. So my recommendation is choose a appliance manufacturer that you like, or that you're interested in. Make a kind of a selection of what you want. Something like the Miele website is quite helpful, because it has a little product selector tool on there, so you can go in and you can select an oven, and you can say, okay, I'd like to have steam function, I'd like to have probe on it, and it will tell you what ovens are available. You can save them into a basket, and then you can print off a list of appliances, and it will give you retail prices. So you can do that with lots of different manufacturers now on many websites, to be able to work it out. And you'll be surprised sometimes when you start to add all these items up, you can easily spend 5, 10, 20, sometimes even £50,000 on appliances. But it gives you a very good feel of what you need to be thinking about budgeting for the requirements that you have. We're always now competitive with internet prices. It's part of the industry standard, so we can provide appliances quite successfully. But it is quite a big chunk of your whole budget. The next aspect is worktops. Now, it's a little bit more tricky to deal with, because it depends on the size of your worktops and the size of your island or kitchen, and obviously there is proportions like that. But you could probably work out roughly, if you wanted an island and you wanted it to be 3 meters by 1.2 meters, you can work out the square meterage. If you wanted a 6-meter island by 1.2 meters, again, you've got square meters. So you could kind of make an indicative guess, or you could set yourself a budget for your worktops. Now, with worktops, obviously, there's very different price points for that. The most cost-effective worktop is, generally speaking, a laminate type of worktop, and then probably going into things like HPL, Corian type surfaces, and then some of the composite stones work really, really well as well from a price point of view. But you can start to go up into products like Decton and Neolith, which can start to be costing £1,000 per square meter, sometimes even more, depending upon the engineering side, which is kind of cutting holes and shaping the stone, can be quite costly. But we've just quoted a project for a client where their square meter cost of their stone just to buy it was £3,500 per square meter. On top of that, you've got all the engineering works. It ended up at £50,000 for the worktop fitted, which was too much. It was a very disappointing experience for her, and but you know, we've worked with different options now and worked out a way through that, because some materials, particularly granites, are quite costly dependent upon supply and demand from quarries and what's in them. So we've currently done the two areas, appliances and worktops. You can start to frame your budget. The minimum you need to be allowing for stonework is probably in the £3,000 to £5,000 bracket. If you have a big kitchen or using expensive stones, you need to be up to £20,000 to £30,000 type of bracket. The next area that we look at is accessory items. Now, accessories, I kind of plug into that things like sinks, taps, waste disposal units, lighting. I put wine fridges into there, bin systems, all those type of things that you need to add on. They can be a little bit more tricky to budget, but for example, you can allow £100 for tap, £300 for tap, or if you want to push the boat out and go for a boiling hot water tap, you're probably in the £1,000 to £1,300 bracket. So all of these little decisions is what beginning to add to the budget for your kitchen project. When you come to budgeting, one kind of advice or guidance that I give our clients is that budgeting for a kitchen or even for a building project is like your credit card bill. You make all the little decisions, make the overall number. When you look at the list on your credit card bill, when it arrives every month, you think, gosh, that's got to be wrong. And actually, once I added mine up just to check they hadn't done it wrong, and it was right, unfortunately. But that's what happens. It can grow very, very quickly. So it's important to keep it under control. The fourth one I've got is installation. Now, installation can be, at the MySite, we generally do dry fit, which is all the building pre-prepared with plumbing, electrics, plastering, painting, flooring, all those sorts of things done. Because we do a lot of work with new build and extensions, and there's already builders on site, so we don't want to duplicate effort. But there is project managed services that we do that therefore can include that type of work if required by a client. But installation for us, we charge per unit cost to install a unit. So we get a base unit, we have a fixed price to do that. So whether that unit costs you £50, £500 or £5,000, because it's a labour charge, fundamentally it's a flat rate, and therefore labour does tend to be more of a fixed type of price. And the very last aspect here is the furniture. Now, when I talk about furniture, I'm talking about the cabinetry, the units, the wall units, the storage units that you buy from a kitchen manufacturer. And what is interesting, I think, in these particular 5 categories, which is kind of a good way to sort it out, if a budget of £30,000 in the first 4 categories, that's excluding the furniture, you could have already spent £20,000. That leaves you with a budget of £10,000 then allocated to the furniture for your kitchen. And that's quite key to understand. So if you have a £60,000 budget, you could have spent £40,000 on appliances and various items. I had a gentleman once who we went through this exercise with him of his budget, and then actually he'd ended up spending £30,000 and hadn't actually put any furniture in. He ended up spending £50,000 because of the choices that he made, and that's fine. He's welcome to spend whatever he wants. But there's a really another interesting point here is that if that first £20,000, which is the categories 1 to 4, remain the same quality, when you're looking at the last £10,000 and let's just say that that £10,000 was an average price kitchen, one at 25% less because it's a more budget kitchen, or 25% more because it's a more luxury kitchen, is actually only plus or minus £2,500. And this is one of the misnomers that sometimes happens, where consumers will go down as much as possible to keep the budget. And actually, we quoted a few years ago a kitchen that was for a neighbour, and we were more cost effective than what B&Q was. And I think this is one of the things that is not understood. As independent retailers, we have access to different items and a way of designing and constructing something which is much more cost effective than what people perhaps even realise. So I just want to jump into the furniture piece, because the furniture piece is actually quite a key area to do that. So when I put some pictures in here because I thought we had too much text for now. So thought I'd kind of liven up with some projects that we've done just to talk about in the background. But the very first thing I wanted to talk about was the furniture manufacturer. Now we have 4 manufacturers that we work with here, and 5 if you want to go down kind of the bespoke route, where we work with a cabinet maker to create something really unique. And all of those suppliers are focused at different types of products, different design styles, but also at different price points. And we're doing probably kitchens around the £25,000, £30,000 upwards, and we've just done a kitchen for £250,000 for someone. So you're talking about a very different aspect. But when you're choosing the manufacturer, that's a really key starting point. If you go to a more costly manufacturer, your kitchen is likely to cost more. If you go to a more budget, it's likely to cost less, but there's still other choices in there which can really change that. The next aspect is that every single kitchen manufacturer has different price groups for the range of their doors. Most of them sit around price group 0 to price group 8, price group 0 being the most cost effective, price group 8 being the most costly. Sometimes they can go up to price group 12. So when you're choosing a door, the price group is really, really key if you're wanting to control the budget and making sure that you're doing right. Maybe you don't want to control the budget, and that will give you the freedom to go into some of the more unique doors, more special finishes. But what you'll find is every supplier's variation in price groups is based on the door front, even if the carcass and the internals remain identical. And you can have quite significant changes in that based on the materials that you're using, from a straight laminate to a glass, to a lacquered door, to a stone finished door, to some bespoke metal doors. And that's kind of going up in the price band. The next thing I'll talk about is metalwork. When I say metalwork, I'm talking about metal inside the units itself. So basically, the most cost-effective cabinet would be, for example, a 60 centimetre cabinet with a door on the front and a couple of shelves. That's going to be the most cost-effective format. Once you start adding metalwork, and I mean drawers inside that, or systems within that, pull-out larder units, corner mechanisms, all of those items increase the cost, understandably, because you not only have metalwork and drawers in there, you have different panels going on and things. So you will see an increase of that as you're doing that. So if you're thinking about controlling your cost, be careful about how many drawers you put in. Drawers have functionality, which is fantastic. They increase the capacity of your kitchen quite significantly, but also they have a very strong aesthetic, which looks really, really good. And the last thing to think about is what goes inside those drawers. Now, you can just put a basic plastic cutlery tray inside if you wanted, or an insert mat of some kind. But actually, in some manufacturers, there is an option. You can see here, you have the spice mills and you have oak-based systems. And I've had clients in the past spend as much inside the cabinet with regard to their inserts as they do on the cabinet itself. So when you're going through the process of planning a design, how does one do that, and how do you do that successfully, and how do you make sure you kind of get what you're wanting to do? So I think here at the Myers Touch, we approach it in kind of 4 different ways of problems that we're trying to help our clients with. The first problem that our clients have is they come in sometimes with a set of plans. I just need a cost. I know what I want. I've designed the kitchen. I've got my plans, the architect's done it, the interior design's done it. I just need to have a shaker style door with this particular finish on it, and they know exactly what they want. They don't really need design or input other than just the obvious thing, they don't make any mistakes. But this is just really providing a cost to a client to help them know what their budget should be and whether it's affordable or not. The second area that we working with clients is that I have a defined space, but I need a design within that space. And this is a situation where you know what your kitchen space is. It's either an existing replacement, it's a new extension, and you've got a defined space. And I need creative input to do that because I just have a blank space. And that's where we can really begin to help our clients very successfully. The next one we look at is I have an undefined space, but I need a design. And what I mean by undefined space is we have clients coming to us at times that are saying to us, my whole house is all confused, the flow isn't right, everything's in the wrong place, it's all disconnected. Do I take down walls? Do I move walls? Do I build an extension? So for us, it's a big space planning exercise where we have to look at the overall flow of the space and re-architect the building in some way. And we have designed extensions for people, but we've designed them and then we've done the kitchen design to make sure that they work together. Because if the architecture is wrong, the kitchen will not feel right when it's done. It's very complicated to actually do it. So this whole working with an undefined space is actually quite an interesting thing to do because we can solve a lot of problems if the architecture is wrong. I'd love to talk about that a lot more, but I need to move on. And the next thing is the problem that we find our clients have is that, you know, we like you guys, we love the products you do, we want to work with you, we're happy with the budget we're going to work to, and we just need you to do all of the above, that line, but I need a full set of drawings, I need all the technical information to go to tender to make sure that I'm getting a good price for what I want to do, or that I've got everything all from a construction point of view, all planned and ready to go. And that works really, really well for us. So what we've done is we've actually created services that support that structure. And the first one is a client comes in and we do this free of charge. They want a budget, they want a price. It's what I would call kind of a planning service. We do a little bit of this, we don't do much of it because we tend to be able to add a lot more value. The next thing we come is what we call the essential design. Essential design is what I talked about, is you have a defined space and you need creative input to do something which is exceptional and really out of the ordinary for what you're looking for. And we have some lovely ways of drawing that out of clients and working with them to be able to do that. Our next one, which includes the essential design within the spatial design, is now looking at the whole space planning aspect of a property and testing it against your criteria and your brief and what we think can be achieved with it. And then the ultimate design, which again is those three services you can see have a cost against them, which is more or less refundable, with a few exceptions, it's refundable against the cost of moving ahead with the kitchen project. And they work really, really well with regards to our clients. So moving on from kind of the whole design process, I'm looking at kind of what we're experiencing right now with some of the current challenges in the marketplace. Now, you probably aren't surprised that there is some of this, because it's actually not just us, it's across the industries in many, many places as we go into these kind of slightly uncertain times with regards to supply of materials. So right now, one of the major problems we're experiencing is lead times. There's a number of reasons for that. One is just the sheer volume of people at the moment that are wanting to do work on their homes. I think post-COVID, people have really fallen in love with their homes again and wanting to create new spaces. They're moving home, they're building extensions, they're really focusing on their home. Of course, generally had a bit more money to spend as well because we're not been going on expensive vacations. But the whole lead time aspects has really pushed the market in the sense of the volume of work that is needed to be done. The second thing is the shortage of materials, which we've seen probably talked about much more in construction, but it absolutely affects our industry as well. And whereas normally I'd be on on a 4-week pure manufacturing time, I'm now looking at the minimum of 8 weeks, and some of our products are even 12 to 18 weeks long. And some of them more specialist. And actually, I ordered a replacement car which should have arrived in March, and it's now due in August, and it's been delayed already 3 times. and I'm still not that optimistic that I've got it. So we are familiar with these issues, but they are meaning that in order to have projects fitted, we can't do it in 2 months like we used to be able to. So the aspects of materials, and I've touched on this really, is there's a few things that are driving behavior. The shortage of materials that actually is, and demand is meaning that material suppliers are going to manufacturers and saying, okay, you want 1,000 Edgar boards in this finish. Well, this is the price. And if you don't like it, we'll take it elsewhere and we can sell it elsewhere. So it's really beginning to push up prices. Some of the materials are struggling. We've just lost within the Somatic range a beautiful smoked oak finish wood because it comes from Ukraine and we just can't get supply anymore. So it's been discontinued immediately. So we're beginning to see some of those sorts of impacts of the lack of materials in the marketplace. As glass as well there's a shortage of glass at the moment because of all the little vials that are being created, and that's hit blood tests, but it's also hit the double glazing industry and it's hit glass suppliers. I put in here builders as a current challenge. I mean, actually, that's kind of labour in general in one sense, but builders is a great place to start because there is a lot of builders that are just very, very busy at the moment. And to get a good builder and good staff to be able to deliver well is actually more difficult. And therefore, with supply and demand, it's also pushing up building prices, not just the materials, which we touched on before, and the increase of, for example, steel in the last year has gone up by 300%. So if you budgeted a £250,000 extension on your building 2 years ago and you go back to the builder, you could well be talking of at least 50 to 100% increase in that cost, which is quite significant, of course. So the supply and demand at the moment in that area. And the other thing I wanted to touch on is appliances. Now, one of the major issues with appliances at the moment is the little computers in all of them. And although you wouldn't think about it, the chip shortage that exists, and we see it more in the car market, is affecting appliances significantly. Now, in Siemens, we're having 12 to 16, sometimes 18 weeks lead time on some of their oven systems. We had one of our suppliers close their refrigeration plant for 2 months and stop manufacturing because they couldn't get any parts or any items. And we've got products at the moment that if you order them today, I couldn't deliver them until next year. So this is having a massive impact on lead times and on the expectation of when clients can receive what they want, because there's always products out there that you can use, but it might not be what you want, and you're investing a significant chunk of money in your dream kitchen. So it'd be lovely to have what you want. So I put here, Christmas has come early, and right now, if you want a kitchen installed for Christmas, you need to be talking to us right now. Because we're currently booked up with fitting to October, and that gives you 2 months before Christmas to be able to do that. People don't realise this because in the old days, pre-COVID, you could order your kitchen in September and you'll have it by Christmas. You can't do that right now. So a little word of advice. So case study is a bit more kind of interesting to run through. And when you look at this kitchen here, I know what this is. So this is a Dekton worktop, and it has a bespoke veneered door that we had custom made for the client to match other woods in the home. And it was manufactured in Spain, shipped over, and then installed onto our units here. And we have Wolfer Sub-Zero ovens on the right-hand side of the black ice. We have a combination steam oven, which is probably about £5,500, an oven which is about 6, and a warming drawer, which is about 3. So that actually is quite a costly kitchen to do that, but you wouldn't know that. As I said, all kitchens look the same from 5 meters away, because it could be a laminate door on that. This is actually a laminate door. It has a special fingerprintless finish on it. On the right-hand side, this was done for a wheelchair lady. So you can't see it on this picture, but it is on our website, I believe. So you can look at how we managed to design this for a wheelchair bound lady. But all of those units have that black, if you look at the back striated pieces of wood, which were hand installed by our fitter, and all the materials there are all Dekton. So that's actually, again, quite a costly kitchen. So this is completely bespoke made, in-frame shaker door with a painted factory finish with a lovely Aga in there. I did touch on this picture earlier in the process. when we were airing the presentation. This again is a fairly costly kitchen because it's all handcrafted and everything is individually bespoke made. We included the utility room in here. This house won Small House of the Year about 10 years ago now, I think, and it's in near Oliver's Battery, if you know Winchester well. This actually is a fairly budget kitchen. It's all in laminate, has laminate worktops on there. You think it might be stone, but it's not. And then we just have a straightforward laminate range on the right-hand side there. This is actually a very competitively priced kitchen, but incredibly stylish, and you wouldn't know the difference. This we did for a developer. It was a £4.5 million home in Ascot. When I was talking about price groups, the Shaker frame doors you can see going right up to the ceiling was a price group 5 lacquered door, and those walnut doors on the left-hand side, they are a piano finished door. So it's a multiple layer built up lacquered finish to that door. And that's a price group 8 door. So it's actually one of the most costly doors that we actually do, but the finish is absolutely stunning. And you can imagine a £4.5 million house has a beautiful kitchen in it. I love this project because this is in one we did in Winchester quite a few years ago now. But what's interesting about this particular photograph, I mentioned about House earlier, where clients save their photos to their ideas books. And this is either one or two, it kind of varies between 2 photos. The other one was the pink kitchen, which you saw right at the very beginning. So this is in top 1 or 2 position. Now this shows you what clients like and what consumers are looking for. So we use this quite a lot in our advertising because it's a kitchen that draws people's attention. That's a laminate kitchen in Somatic, and you probably know more than £30,000 for that kitchen, including appliances and fitting and stone worktops and glass. So it's a really beautiful kitchen, but really well priced for what it is. This is just a kitchen that you would have seen earlier. If you recognise the wood. This is all bespoke doors on a standard Somatic carcass. This is actually, I think it's a really lovely kitchen actually. It was something that I quite enjoyed doing, and it was clients were great fun to work with, and they really were challenging us in the sense of what we were producing and how we were doing it. So it has custom made doors, like I said, which are lacquered with buster and punch handles on them. That's a fairly costly kitchen. This kitchen here, this was in the Black House, which was up for Grand Design's House of the Year, probably must be about 3 years ago now, I suppose, 2 or 3 years ago, I can't quite remember. This is a really beautiful kitchen, but it's quite simple in its format, in the way it does. And probably the big cost here is the stone worktop and the Aga, significant chunk of cost. If you've ever done an Aga, they're probably around about the probably £10,000 to £20,000 mark, depending upon the specification. But the kitchen is actually fairly simple and straightforward. Now, it wasn't a budget kitchen, but you wouldn't know what that could very easily be finished in a glass door or a lacquered door, and it would significantly increase the cost of the kitchen. I quite like this kitchen. We didn't actually do the item. That's something that the client had already had commissioned from a previous house, and he brought it with him. We did the part on the right-hand side. Now, that I think that cost around about £70,000 to £80,000, and this was probably about 4 years ago now. So we're probably not going to be far off £90,000 for that now. But why is that £90,000, you ask? Well, there's a number of reasons why, which you wouldn't know automatically why it's that price. The first thing is that all of those doors are a custom made, bespoke veneered finish, which we had made by a joiner. The whole of that bank has a recessed plinth set back 300 millimeters. So we had to build a steel framework on the underneath that bolted to the wall that allowed that whole of that units there to float out. Now, what you can see the 2 ovens in there. They're Wolfen Sub-Zero ovens, so they're big 76 centimeter wide ovens. But we have a 76 centimeter wide fridge also in that bank that we're having to float a heck of a lot of weight off the floor. So just the structural engineering behind that and the support system we had to create to not allow that to move. If you look in the center where the sink is, you'll see a stainless steel frame. Now, what we've done in here is we created a bespoke stainless steel worktop, 6mm wide, all the way around with custom lighting in, which goes right up to basically 1mm from the edge of the glass. So you have this beautiful seamless connection to the outdoor. Now, if you've watched our Light, Space and Laughter talk, which is on our YouTube channel, when I talk about that, you'll see how important it is to us to get the connection with the outdoors and how to seamlessly bring those spaces in. So that was a fun project to work on, but lots of detail, which is what makes that fairly costly. This actually is a very simple kitchen. Again, lovely Fisher Paykel fridge freezer on the right there, which is a really good value product to bring into a kitchen. Laminate doors, stone on the sink run on the right hand side with a laminate surround rather than the stainless steel that we saw in the last project. And here we have probably just a price group 1 and price group 2 stone on the island. Beautifully simple kitchen and actually very affordable. This project we've done up near Guildford, a couple that I met when I was presenting at Grand Designs and on the Ask the Expert there. Loved working with this couple because we completely turned their whole thought process upside down of what actually, in that sense, what the architect had kind of laid out as a building regulations concept for how the house was going to come together. And we had some great ideas for them. And it was really fun to work in this. But here, probably the complexity is the mixing of the stone on the island and just trying to get that finish and that detail correct. But it's a laminate kitchen in there, so it's actually quite good value. I can't remember the price of that one because it's a bit too long ago. I think it's the last case study picture. We saw this earlier back in the Design Awards. And I put this in because I wanted to kind of raise why this kitchen was, well, this is well over 10 years ago and it was £70,000 then. So I think would be well over £100,000 now for a kitchen like this. And the main reasons though, the first thing, it's a gloss black door and it's a lacquered finish. It's not a laminate finish. So therefore, to get a gloss back lacquer, to get it really good without any marks, blemishes, detail is actually a really difficult thing to do. So you tend to play and that lacquered finish quite a lot for a really good gloss back door. You see on the left-hand side at the back there on the appliance wall, you've got a whole bank of Miele appliances. So we're talking about premium products there. On the right-hand side where you see the stainless steel doors, that's a fridge and freezer from Gaggenau, 762 wide on each one. They're probably around now about £8,000 each plus the door on there. On the sink run, you'll see that the stone not only goes on the worktop, but runs up the wall as well. That was all about the practical zone and the work zone. So that's a very durable star stone type composite worktop on the side there. And then on the island itself, which is it kind of makes it a little bit more, I think, quite interesting. The first thing is the worktop is a Connemara marble on the surface, which is very sensitive to staining and acids, which is why we have the work area on the back. And this was much more about creating an architectural island, which was 5 meters by 1.8 meters. And we had this custom seating put into the center. Now that cost us about £15,000 to do quite a long time ago now. So you can begin to see how the costs begin to add up for this. But this makes it really unique and really personal and really individual to that client. And we fulfilled his brief really well, and he was very, very pleased with it. So last slide, you'll be pleased to know I'm on time as well, 45 minutes. So how much do luxury kitchens cost in summary? Well, I think the important thing to say is that the real sense that luxury is very relative. And if we look at it as a refinement of living, rather than just having really expensive items, then I think that makes luxury quite affordable. And you have companies advertising affordable luxury. And of course, there's companies that we never go to, which cost significant sums to be able to do something. Great design, I really believe, should never be linked to investment. But there is limitations to that. I think fundamentally, I touched earlier, I said I can buy a cabinet for £50, £500 or £5,000. There is an aspect where I think one of the things we try to pursue is that the good design should really be able to impact people's lives significantly, and fundamentally like to have the ideal sort of situation. It should never be linked to money. But there is a material aspect of that, and obviously, like I was just mentioned with worktops, or go back to the car example, little Fiat will get you from A to B successfully as the Ferrari will, but fundamentally it's a very different experience. And then I think affordable luxury can work in that sort of spot quite successfully. Thinking about setting your budgets and where you want to invest, trying to do some forward planning of that is really, really helpful, because it's not helpful to us when someone says, I don't have a budget, because everybody has a budget. I've never had a client that hasn't had a budget or some idea of what they want to do. And if we have the wrong budget because it's too low, it can limit expression, and it can limit the presence a kitchen can make. And if it's too high, it makes it unaffordable, and therefore it doesn't work for particular clients. The fourth item I just put is supporting your design, and that's really where I touched on the supporting services that we do to help clients through the process of creating the most amazing space. We haven't really in this presentation touched hugely on design, but if you go onto our YouTube channel and you look at the Creating Kitchens with Light, Space and Laughter, and there's other ones creating kitchens for large spaces and small spaces, the 5 top things your kitchen should enjoy. There's a number of videos in there which are just like this, little presentations that we've managed to kind of knock together, that really help our clients through that planning process. And some people will just enjoy our presentations and go and do their own thing, but others will come to us and they do, and we help them to go through that process and all the way. And the very, very last item is planning for long lead times and for shortages. I think I was at an event yesterday, and the general feeling is the whole of the kitchen industry is experiencing significant issues with regard to lead time, as is construction and other sectors as well. And I don't think one should underestimate what needs to be done. So we are very happy to talk to clients that are wanting kitchens for Christmas, and I think that's even getting tight now to be able to do that. But if you're thinking of a kitchen next year or within the next year, you should be talking to a designer right now, so you can be planning successfully without any sense of rush. You can then select the products that you want, and then you can order them months in advance to make sure you get what you want. As we've had clients that have had to switch to alternative products because they haven't been able to order in time and availability hasn't worked. So I hope that's been useful. Thank you very much for listening. If you'd like to make contact with us, our website is here. Please just log on and you can have a look at some of the work we've done, and you'll see all our projects or some of our projects listed there. Or just pick up the phone or use the contact form on there. We're always happy to talk and to chat through what you need and how we can help you, and if we can help, because we can't help everybody as much as we would perhaps like to. So thank you very much for your time. Thank you to Jay for doing all the work that she's done in the backgrounds there, and look forward to seeing you on our next design talk, which will probably be around September time. So wish you all the best and have a great summer. Thank you very much.